Sometimes ribs are hit or miss, either at home or if you go to a restaurant. So I wanted to really try to find a way to make really good baby back ribs. And the first key to it for me is to sous vide them for about a day. And it makes them so tender and just so delectable that they fall off the bone and they're just the right moisture and they're so good. So today we're going to make sous vide ribs like a bastard.
Look like a bastard today.
To make good ribs, you need good ribs. You can quote me on that. I got these at the local grocery store. They were on sale, and I've got them there before, and they're just surprisingly good. Very meaty, a little bit of fat, a little stuff you have to clean up. So we're just going to clean these up just a little bit by cutting off some of the fat. Not all of it, but you want to get some of the bigger sections off. Because we're sous videing it, so much of this is just going to melt away in the cooking process. But while you're eating it, you surely don't want the big chunks of fat that's not going to disappear. So you kind of find some of the more of the harder fats in here. And just kind of cut through. I'm using my boning knife, very sharp, so be careful. Then I like to score some of the fat that I'm not removing. Again, it just helps it liquefy more during the sous videing process, which is going to be 20 to 24 hours. That's a great thing about it, as long as you plan ahead. And what I like to do with these actually is that I will make several racks together and just freeze them and just drop them in the sous vide when I'm ready. I still need to know I want them the next day. All right, so let's flip it over. What I do here also is just kind of score it multiple times on the back. Because again, most of this is just going to dissolve in the cooking process. If it's not, sometimes it's really heavy in places and you can peel it off. Take one last look of it. Say, yeah, that looks good. Now that we have the ribs all cleaned up, let's put our dry rub together. And there is 1,001, well, more than that, different types of dry rubs. I'm sure you have your favorite. I'm going to put together a pretty simple one today. It starts with a half cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons smoked paprika, and then 1 tablespoon of mustard. I'm using Coleman's mustard, and about a half teaspoon of liquid smoke. Yes, I know this isn't dry, but it makes the difference when you put these things together. Put that out, then we're going to mix this together. And just give it a little taste. It's missing a little something. Put a couple dashes of cayenne in there. Trust me, you'll be happy. That's 1/2 teaspoon. Mix that in. Taste it. Perfect. So we're going to let these things meld together for a moment, and then we're going to slap them on the ribs. Okay, we've cleaned up our pork. We've let the dry rub sit for a little bit. Now we're going to put the dry rub on both sides here. You might want to use gloves. I don't. I like to feel it. I don't like to be interrupted by that sense of cleanliness. But just kind of rub it in, find any gaps, make sure it goes in there. And it's not a neat process, I guarantee you. You want to make sure that it's in and kind of becoming part of the ribs. You may want to do both sides. Again, the sous vide does such a great job of melding all these flavors together and really making it just so tender. Really the best ribs I've ever had, so that's why I'm happy to share them with you here today. I think the little liquid smoke is nice in here with the mustard, just a little hint to give a little more flavor. So we're going to let this sit for a minute or two before we bag it up. We're going to seal this up in our food sealer before we begin the sous videing process. We're going to cut these in half first because they're just easier. They'll fit in your sous vide better. It's probably the way you want to eat them. I do it this way so I get a little bit more when we cook them. Shh, don't tell anyone. So anyhow, you can let these sit for a few minutes while we get our food sealer set up here on Cook Like a Bastard. So we've let the dry rub soak in a little bit here, and I'm looking at it and thinking, I think it's missing a little something. So I open up the little missing something drawer and I find a couple pieces of bacon. I think that's gonna be a good thing to also put in there during the sous vide process. So pretty simple. I've made these bags. Just pop this in here, hope it's the right size. You just put in your sealer. The audio guy likes stuff like this. I also like to think the idea that we actually have an audio guy. So once you have your ribs all sealed up, you can either sous vide them right now, sous vide them tomorrow, freeze them, sous vide them a month from now, but this is a great start to these fantastic ribs. After you have your ribs all packed up, it's time to sous vide. So I am going to sous vide this at 154 degrees for 20, 21, 22 hours. It really doesn't matter at that point. Once you go past 18, it's only going to get better. So we just put these packages in here. Put the little keep it down tray in here. Put the little insulating cover on, and we'll see you tomorrow. So we've been sous videing here at 154 degrees for, I think there'd be a clock in here, wouldn't you? It's been a damn long time. It's been roughly 22 hours we've been doing this. So I am going to save this juice that's in here and I'm going to cook it down and make it part of the sauce. So you can see how good these things are, how well done they are, and just so tender. So you cut this off. First, we're going to cook this down a little bit and then add a little bit of our own barbecue sauce to put a topping before we cook. We're making ribs here on Cook Like a Bastard. So I cooked down the liquids that came from the ribs, and I'm going to mix it in with my favorite barbecue sauce. You can add it to yours, and just mix this together. You don't have to cook down the juices or even use them. I think it adds a little more flavor to it, and just a nice way to kind of finish these guys off. Liberally brush them on here. So we're going to be putting these under the broiler. You could put them on your grill outside if you want. But I'm going to put them under my broiler at about 500 degrees for 5 minutes or so until they really get that nice little char you love on it. It may take a day to do it, but a lot of the day you don't have to worry about it. So we're going to put them in the oven and let them rip. This is great. We're making ribs like a bastard. Then after 5 minutes or so underneath the broiler, let's take this guy out here. Look at these things. They are absolutely amazing. We have made sous vide ribs, but the real test of this is, of course, is not what they look like or what they smell like, what they taste like. So look at the great bark we got from the broiler here, and just how tender this is. I mean, it's just amazing. And this is because we cooked it for about 20, 22 hours. And we finished it. The flavor from the dry rub is so through the meat, and the meat is so tender. You're just not going to find ribs at every rib joint like this. And you're able to make these at home. This is the great thing about Cook Like a Bastard. We find things that are maybe too complicated for you, and you think about it, hey, maybe I can do this. Today, we made ribs like a bastard.
He cooks like a bastard, so can you. He's not a bastard, but cooks like one too. Don't miss that little something and cook like a bastard today.